I try to learn things every day, and you know what? This channel actually does help me learn things. I humble myself a lot with these videos because I just have to admit that, I never knew something like what I am talking about in the video existed. I often feel very stupid because when I finally figure it out, it's kind of like, oh wow, I can't believe I didn't know about this concept. That's the case here when it comes to asset reuse in video games. I did not know that this concept existed. I probably knew about the general concept of it. I just didn't really know that there was a whole term for it and that people really do discuss it from time to time. But yes, this is a thing, especially when it comes to game series. There can be a lot of asset reuse in them. Games like the Far Cry series or Assassin's Creed, Halo, Call of Duty, games that there's a new entry maybe every year or every 2 or 3 or even 5 years. There can be a lot of asset reuse. You don't have to always create every single little thing in the game from the ground up when you already have a good blueprint to begin with. Now, it sounds like the whole concept of asset reuse used to not be as popular, but now it's a bit more accepted, I guess, in the gaming community. Now, that's what this article right here from PC Gamer was about. Basically, they interview a guy by the name of Alex Hutchinson. He is a very big deal, or at least was at Ubisoft. He was a lead director on some huge games like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. Specifically, it looks like he was the actual legit main creative lead on Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 4. Now, those two games in question, they ended up being games where a later game in the series had a lot of asset reuse from those games. Specifically, it sounds like Assassin's Creed Black Flag had a ton of asset reuse from Assassin's Creed 3. Also, Far Cry Primal had a lot from Far Cry 4. So he talks about Far Cry Primal, for example, and he says that he kind of tried to make it public that there was asset reuse in it. They ended up not being public about it, and then they got a bit unpopular about it. People called them out for being cheap developers. He talks about how back in these times there was a laziness stigma about asset reuse. In the eyes of many gamers, people thought that it was laziness that was the motivating factor of asset reuse, not really efficiency. And like I said, another example, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, there was a bunch of asset reuse, like a lot from AC3. So it says in Assassin's Creed, animations move through multiple iterations. He says Black Flag reused about 80% of Assassin's Creed 3. That's a lot. So there's always some reuse, at least in the big studios. But it sounds like over time, asset reuse has been a more accepted thing. It says search YouTube for videos on asset reuse today, and you'll notice the tone has turned. The platform is no longer dominated by essentially condemnation of asset reuse. It's also home to arguments on why reusing assets is crucial. So people kind of recognize it as a more efficient tool rather than just developers being lazy. I do think that's a pretty good thing overall, mainly because I do feel like you are spending way too much time on kind of the, I guess we can call it the nitty gritty. If you keep making an Assassin's Creed game or a Far Cry game and you just keep remaking from the ground up all of this nitty gritty kind of work. It says every time you make a shooter, you go and re-record the guns. Not only that, but then when you get back in the audio, people realize that all the guns kind of sound exactly the same. There's the shotgun, the rifle, the pistol, but all of them basically sound the same except for rate of fire. So then after doing all this pointless work, you spend months making fake guns to make them sound the way you think they should. He says, we do a lot of dopey things in the game industry. We redo too much stuff. Although with modern engines, hopefully we can get around it. Yeah, and a huge thing that Alex Hutchinson does point out as well is the comparison of Western game developers to Chinese and Japanese game developers, talking about how 15 years ago Western devs were absolutely dominant, but now things have kind of flipped. Japanese and Chinese developers are absolutely dominating. They are doing fantastic compared to Western developers, and one big reason for that is that asset reuse is something that is now embraced, at least for Chinese and Japanese developers. It talks about Dark Souls and Yakuza and Elden Ring, games like this, using assets over and over to save time when you are making another game in the series. Overall, this is something that has kind of opened my eyes to this. I am happy that it's not something that is kind of frowned upon anymore. I definitely think it is a way to make games in a lot more of an efficient way. It's like they say, work smarter, not harder.